Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. I'm Trey Griggs, founder and CEO of Beta Consulting Group. We're so glad that you're joining us today for an incredible episode. I can't wait to talk to my good friend, Steve Schmidt. We've had an awesome week of shows this week. If you didn't catch earlier in the week, make sure you go back and check those out. I had a great conversation on Monday with my good friend, Brent Orsuga. That guy is just incredible, talking about his mindset and his investment in personal development. Yesterday, I had my good friend Adrian Chapman on, who's in the recruiting world, a former college football player, defensive back and coach who now does recruiting. That was a phenomenal conversation. Today's is going to be great. Tomorrow, we've got David Villa on the show. He's a content creator, CEO of IPD Agency. And so that's going to be an awesome show as well. And then on Friday, we're going to round out the week with my good friend Jim Becker from Becker Logistics and talk about his journey as a CEO in the transportation space. A lot of great shows this week. Make sure you check those out. Also, if you wouldn't mind, take a moment to check us out at betaconsultinggroup.com. We're helping companies tell their stories through branding, messaging, content creation, social media strategy, podcasting, any way that they can get out and tell a great story. That's what we're all about, is helping them shape that on the different platforms and mediums that they would like to use. So check us out. And while you're there, click on that ticker on the homepage on top. You can actually go to our new swag store. And I don't know why we're doing this, folks, but we're doing it because it's fun. We created a swag store with some content. We want to create a community of people that are with us on a Standing Out podcast and Word on the Street. This is one of our creations, a couple water bottle and a couple mugs that we hope you'll enjoy. So check us out at shop.betaconsultinggroup.com. You can use coupon code BETAGO because we got our grand opening this week and next week, and you can get 20% off your entire order using that coupon code BETAGO on the store. So support us with that. Join our community. We'd love to have you as a part of what we're doing here on Standing Out and our other podcasts that we have going on. And finally, before we bring on our guests, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, TAFS. These are the good guys in freight factoring. They're helping carriers have all the resources that they need to keep those wheels turning, from fuel discounts and tire discounts to capital infusion through freight factoring and insurance discounts and all of those good things. So check them out at TAFS.com, or click on the link that's going to be in the comments today that Morgan's going to put in the comments. That takes you right to my landing page with TAFS, so they know that I sent you there. So whether you're a carrier, owner, operator, and need their services, or if you're a freight broker and want to become a referral partner, click that link, go get started with them today, and see how they can help you guys out there in the industry keep those wheels turning, keep those products moving, keep our economy going. We appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and bring on our guest today. I can't wait to talk to this guy. He's got an amazing story about what's happening in his world. He's an entrepreneur and now just merged with another company to do some incredible stuff. So please welcome to the show my good friend, Steve Schmidt. Steve, what's up,
Trey,
man? How are you?
what is going on, man? I was backstage just sipping on my coffee mug and water bottle, and yeah, I was the first one to get in there, and I think it's Small Business Saturday coming up anyway. So yeah, I'm all about that. So
Well,
sign me up
yeah,
for the water bottle.
absolutely, man. We'll get you a better coupon than the one that everybody else gets since you're on the show.
Okay.
We appreciate you being on the show and being a part of what we're doing
Yeah.
here. And I didn't mention it, but at the beginning of the show, I always do kind of these crazy little intros. I put up a picture of my wife and I when we got married. We look a lot younger back then because we just celebrated 17 years, and my kids are at camp, so we've been having like a 4-day date. We've seen Top Gun twice. We went and played a little golf. We went to a Cardinals game here in St. Louis, so we've had a good time. So thanks for entertaining and humoring me, everybody, by checking that out. So, Steven, thanks for being on the show, man. Tell everybody 30 seconds, who the heck are you for people who maybe don't know who you are and what you're up to these days? Give us a little rundown.
Steve Schmidt, Chief Revenue Officer for SellX. It's interesting, SellX. I say X because a lot of people say like UberX, and I say actually a lot like that. So SellX is like Uber for sales. You can dial up your team on demand. We have a platform where clients can get in and see their own campaign in real time. Prior to that, I was the CEO for Title, and we were just a little startup from the middle of South Dakota. I had a good idea during COVID in my son's bedroom, and started working out of there. And we ended up where we are today with over 50 people hired. And joining SellX about 2 weeks ago really cemented that journey for us, because we always wanted to scale. And as a bootstrap services startup, it's really, really tough to scale because services business is a little bit tough. It scales slower. The margins are thinner. We met SellX, and I knew pretty much right away that this was a good match. And last 2 weeks have been busy merging. We had a lot of that out of the way early on, but it has been pretty damn smooth. The first week was, a fire drill of sorts, because we love to get everything right all the time. But we're here today and everybody's smiling, man. So it's just good to be on the other side of that fence right now.
Yeah, I mean, you have a ton of things going on, and so it's a real timely, time for us to get together and to actually chat and hear what's been going on. I
Mhm.
appreciate your time in the midst of the chaos of what's going on right now. So I want to go back to the beginning of this journey, with title. So you said you started
Mhm.
this out of your son's bedroom in during the
Yeah.
midst of COVID, and you said you're in South Dakota. Is that right? What part of South Dakota?
Well, actually, I'm in my son's bedroom again because they all have COVID. So it's just weird.
Oh
It's
no,
like 2.5 years later and it's their
coming full
second
circle
time. And
here. Oh man.
yeah, it's full circle, but I mean, they're fine this time around, like asymptomatic. But I started that because I'd make the leap out. I actually, funny story here. I'll see if I can tell this in a short storytelling
Go
method.
for it.
I left my corporate job and I was hell bent that I was going to be a consultant and go teach people how to build funnels and sales process and go to market strategy. I had a company from China where I went and flew to Las Vegas to meet the CEO. I was introduced by a friend. I went to meet him. He couldn't meet me because he was in the hospital because the competition gave him marijuana cookies, which are legal in Vegas, but he got really sick. I didn't know about it till the next day. I was getting ready to fly out, and I thought, man, that's a real bummer. I flew all the way to Vegas to meet this guy, my first gig, and he got sick, and I really didn't know what happened. And I got a call from him. He said, "Can you meet now?" And I went to meet him, and I, ran out of the airport and said to my wife, "I've got to go meet this guy, and this is my big first gig." And I got hired. I couldn't understand a word he said. He couldn't understand me. But he told me what happened, and I was kind of laughing. It wasn't funny, but I was just kind of uncomfortably laughing because of the language barrier we have. But he ended up hiring me to sell hardware for Zoom rooms. They had an AI-driven hardware. It was a really, really nice lineup, actually. And I was going to help them get in the U.S. market and talk about channel strategies. But COVID happened, and they were from Xiamen City, which is close to Wuhan, right? So, right when I was getting ready to fly over to Amsterdam for our big first show, with all the big screens, tray, and like all that stuff that I really don't like, but hey, I was excited. Going to Amsterdam, like get out of the country. My wife said, "I don't think you should go," and I called them and said, "I don't think I can go." And they said, "Are you sure? Because we really need you there. We just hired you to do this show." And they also they went, but they came back. They decided we can't sell this right now. Nobody's going to buy any video conferencing hardware or anything for the foreseeable future. Since they were from China, they owned 5 manufacturing facilities that also happened to just conveniently manufacture PPE. So we ended up selling $168 million worth of PPE over the next
Whew.
8 months.
Wow.
Still working out of the bedroom. Eventually ended up in the office down the street here just because I needed some place with more space and a whiteboard. But that allowed me to really take that experience, if you will, and then collect those commissions because I actually took it as a commission only job, which was pretty smart in hindsight. But that's how we bootstrapped and founded Title because I said, "There's no way. Obviously, I want to do this forever." That company got acquired, by the way, but I chose to not go with it, and we started Title and started with 4 people. And 8 months later, we were losing our minds. So it's been wild, and LinkedIn has treated us very, very good as a community. We're very grateful.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a phenomenal community to be a part of, that's for sure. So I want to go back to the part of the story there. So you had this opportunity. You said you did commission only. In hindsight, that was really smart. A lot of
Mhm.
people are not real interested, salespeople especially, are not interested in commission only jobs. Why'd you make that decision?
Well, at the time, we thought we'd sell maybe $1 million, so 5% of a million sounded pretty good. 5% of 168 million sounded a lot better. That never ended up panning out in full because they had no idea we'd sell that much. So let's just say I got a portion of that, which was fine. And I kind of let go of it because I didn't want to go have that sort of pursue that in court or whatever you do. And I just said, okay, well, it is what it is. But I would say now, like if someone offered me a commission only job tomorrow at this stage in my life, even with 4 kids and a wife, we're a dual income family, I would still take it all day. I feel like I just worked one for the last year and a half, anyways, because when you own your own company, you really get used to the idea of, leaders eat last. And so, like, there's a couple times right before the merger where when finances get tight, you're really trying to make that happen. And before we joined Celex and winding Title down, like it was like, all right, so I really got to say what I mean and actually not take a paycheck. And that sucks for me. But like at the same time, it's okay because that's the mentality you have to have. It is not a woe is me thing. So I feel like the commission only thing hasn't left me yet. And I'm not sure it ever will. And honestly, I don't think I'd go back to a W-2 job just because I realize now the impact that waiting position down with the base salary has on your potential. If you're good, I would always take a commission only job any
Yeah,
day.
yeah. Yeah, and I think starting your own business is the ultimate commission only job because like you said, you have to generate revenue, and if you have expenses, if you have team members that you're responsible for and those kind of things, all that comes first. And so
Yep.
it is the ultimate commission only job. I think anybody who is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, would be wise to try to take a commission only job to see how they do, to see how like as McKinsey said, you bet on yourself, you believe in yourself.
Yep.
It's a skill that when you think about starting your own company, you don't think about necessarily, okay, this is commission only. If I don't generate customers and clients, if I don't do this, there's nothing there. There's nothing for any of us to
Yep.
eat, and it gives you a really good appreciation for where revenue comes from and how to build a company, how to be efficient with the money and just all those things that go into it. So I love that story that you took that first. It probably gave you a ton of confidence to start Title by doing that.
It did. I think, my wife was really encouraging. Mackenzie, who I worked with and was talking about, Mackenzie Boley, who I talked about in the post today, has just been like really become honestly like one of my good friends. And just she was my sounding board when I needed it. And at first, I mean, she was the one looking at me and she was the girl on the other side of the screen. And I'm like, oh, great, Jake gave me the new girl. And shortly after that, I was like, whoa, he gave me the most talented person on his staff. And she's going out on herself. So I think having that outside view it's forced me to get outside of my own head, to look at the things I say from an outsider's perspective before I ever say them, because that's important, right? Telling the story of what we're doing right now is probably more important than ever, because a lot of people want to complicate their narrative of what they do. And I've just simplified it down. When people say, hey, what is Sellex? I say, it's like Uber for sales. And they go, wow, cool. And I'm like, wow, I wish I would have been saying that for the last however many months, because I was like, well, it's a tool, it's a
That's
platform, it's
right.
a community. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to start doing what marketing does and simplify it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And Mackenzie's phenomenal. One of my favorite people on the planet, on planet Earth, no doubt about that. I don't know what people are like on other planets, but on planet Earth, she's one of my favorites for sure. Absolutely amazing. So you get into this role where you start Title, you have success with that. What was that like, and what was kind of the Kickstarter for that success? Taking that on. Where, well, first of all, explain a little bit to everybody else what Title did, what you were doing with that. But what was kind of the Kickstarter and what led to that success?
Title was not the company that got purchased by Spotify, although we do get a lot of job applicants who think that's who they're going to work for Jay-Z. So that's not who we are. We were this, it'd be like if you painted houses, but you said, man, our people are really good painters. And they go, well, what's the cost? Because an outsourced lead gen, which is what we were, right? We were the Band-Aid that came in and fixed things, or, had the intention to fix things. And I say intention because you never know what you're getting into, and neither does the company. And I've started to say that how do you guarantee results? And I said, well, how do we guarantee that you're going to be committed to this the entire time? Because collaboration is the biggest thing. And now, like, looking back at that, being a services only company where we didn't own our own software, we didn't own our own anything. It really presented like we had a really lean and mean tech stack, meaning it worked well for us, but it didn't work well for the clients, because we still had to take all that data, parse it out, and then present it to them in a way where it felt really manual and very, called spreadsheet driven. And that's great, right? Spreadsheets can really save the world if you think about like all the things that go on and what can be figured out by putting 7,000 sets of data that all marry up with each other. But I think if anything, it taught me to appreciate the services side of the business. And although we're on a platform now, and there's a huge demand we're seeing for what the curiosity at a minimum, because now we take the lead gen that we did at Title, we still do that, but we are a marketplace with over 270 reps who are already there. We just put 22 offer letters out today. We have 46 interviews in the next 2 days before the 4th of July. We just closed $100,000 in business this week. So for us, just like at Title, like, this is not slowing down. If anything, like, we're like, man, if the week before the 4th of July is slow, then I have no idea what it's going to be like when people get back, because we haven't even quote unquote marketed yet. All we've done is continue to do what we did, which is LinkedIn, which is how we generated every single lead, because that's just what we did. We kind of ran out of budget besides the podcast, right? And so we always use that organic strategy to drive leads. So inevitably, they all came from LinkedIn. And that's great. And I said, gosh, what happens when we expand outside the 4 walls of LinkedIn and start to go to TikTok and the other platforms? And so we hired a TikTok and community manager, and she'll be working with Mackenzie now, as Mackenzie's a consultant for brand, and we get to start explore one channel at a time. So we can now continue to do what we did before, do it on a platform, and be able to scale. Because when we say we need 600 reps on the platform at the end of the year, like, we truly mean it. And we are surprised that in the current economic condition, there's over 1,400 applicants who are dying to work a quote unquote commission only job. And I say quote unquote because I can get into that, but I mean, they're going to make as much, if not more, within the 6 weeks if they just do what they say they can do in the interview. And that gives us the overhead reduction that we need to be able to scale at light speed. And they get the luxury of being able to work from pretty much wherever, pretty much whenever, and log in. And, some of them are working 10 hours a week, some 20, and some are working 40. And so we kind of got this specialist over here, like the 10-hour person who has a full-time job at Salesforce, but slays CRM tools. We've got 14 of those. And then we've got the people who know e-commerce over here. And so we can say, here's what we need. So therefore, let's look in the talent pool and see who has that and pull them up into the platform and train them and go live.
Man, I love that. And lead generation is something a lot of companies struggle with. I want to talk about branding for just a minute, though. This is a passion of mine, is the value of brand. And when you say that you haven't done any
Mhm.
outreach, but people are coming to you, that indicates to me
Mhm.
that there is a strong brand behind what you're doing. That Title had a strong brand, that Celex has a strong brand. And using LinkedIn,
Mhm.
the posts that you put out, the content you put out is tremendous. I've started following you in the last probably 4 months because of Mackenzie Boley. But I've started following you and just and seeing the content put out there. That all goes to who you guys really are, what your brand is. And that sounds like it's paid dividends for where you guys are at now and where you're going.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting, because when you build in public, you have to start to do what you say you do, because now you're accountable to everybody. So if you say, like we said last week, we're going to hit 24 million by the end of the year. Why did we say that? Because that's the goal, and we're not going to miss it. And it's not that we're arrogant about it. It's, I've been doing this for a while, which only gives me experience to say I know how to do it the wrong way. And I know that the right way is consistency beats intensity. So we have to consistently grow instead of
I
that
love that.
intense bootstrap growth where you have to just kind of almost grow yourself out of business. And everybody knows that that will happen. We all hear it. But man, I mean, I can tell you that getting about like 6 to 7 million in a bootstrap business is really hard, because now any shift in the customer base is going to throw you off and you're going to go, where's the money? And now that we have backing, and there'll be more news around that coming up, it doesn't mean we're going to go blow a bunch of money right away. It means we get to act like a bootstrap company with the backdrop of funding, right? So we can operate and be profitable and just keep that money tucked away and say, if we need it, when we need it. But we'd rather operate at a 60 to 70% profitability and never touch that money, other than hiring the strategic hires we need to, and not do more Super Bowl commercials or anything crazy like that.
Yeah, well, let's just back up. Consistency over intensity. Somebody please put that in the comments, because that needs to be out there. That's so powerful. I think sometimes we forget that compound effect of consistency, and that it truly beats intensity. It's like working out. You can't go to the gym for 9 hours and expect a bunch of results. But if you go to the gym for 30 minutes every day, if you just get
Yep.
motion every day, that's where you start to see the difference. That's where you start to see the results. And man, I love hearing you say that consistency over intensity wins every day. I love that. That's a great saying. I'm going to hold on to that one. So
Yeah.
I love what you're also talking about in terms of how you're thinking about business, in terms of, hey, we're going to go at this really hard. We're going to put our goals out there. What are your thoughts around goals, in the sense of, do you ever
Mhm.
feel like goals actually restrict what you can do, or prohibit, or
Yeah.
like mentally prohibit what you can do? Talk a little bit about your idea around goals and why you chose that one, and just dig into that a
Yeah.
little bit more.
I talked about this in Mackenzie because we're gonna talk about a post about it, because something that's always struck me, and I live in a family of artists, right? You wouldn't know it, but I mean, you got my wife who's an executive in healthcare, and myself who's leading the charge of revenue, and we are artists. I was a musician in college.
I love it.
She's a hippie in a suit, and
I'm the same
happens to
way.
be a scientist as well. And so, like, we're always, I guess we're treating this as much like art as anything else. And if you look at goals, right? Creativity can also live with inside borders. And sometimes you need borders to be as creative as possible, because now you have the restriction of time and space. And a lot of people, when they don't have a goal, they don't know where to run to. And there's a lot of scientific studies, like you can just Google it, and trust me, there's some really good ones on. People will always achieve the ceiling you put on them. And so if I say to you, your goal is a million, you're going to magically hit 900 or 1.1. That's not by accident. It's because your mind is set on that. So if and companies try this, right? They go, oh, your quota is 1.6, wink, wink. And it is or isn't based off of, like, well, you're not, the company's revenue didn't go up. So why did mine go up? And you start to look at that and go, okay, so if I just say you don't have a quota, you have a target that we all have to achieve, and you either achieve it or eventually you'll work somewhere else. I mean, I know that sounds terrible, but let's be honest, like, that the sales is, you either produce it eventually or not. And once you get into a rhythm, like, nobody's going to let you go, right? They have to see, though, that salesperson, like, get into rhythm. And while we're building our revenue team out right now, so I've got Casey, and then there's Anthony at Celex. That's two. We will be adding those people. And when I said, when we're interviewing those kind of people, right, we're not talking $1 million quota. We're talking $5 to $10 million quotas, and we're talking about $40,000 to $60,000 deals at a time. We're getting 6 to 8 inbound leads a day. I also expect every one of our salespeople to be doing outbound for 60 dials a day. And so they all go, well, how do I do that, Steve? And I say, it's great. You block your calendar and you never give that time up. That's creativity within borders. Now, what you do within those 2 hours, I don't care. Make it useful. Call it LinkedIn research. The rest of the day, you have 3 meetings, and then you're researching for the next day, reviewing the calls from this, getting game tape, throwing it in the CRM, rinse and repeat. Because now that we get to scale to be $100 million and $1 billion company, and we're very serious about that in the next 3 to 5 years, like my job is to create the most efficient processes to scale right now, so we don't have to change it later. And that's what I've been doing, is laying the foundation on that from a revenue perspective and marketing and BD, because all those things roll up to me. And I have full faith in our business development organization. They're just kicking ass right now. Content marketing, obviously, with Mackenzie Strong, we're looping that in with Nick Tate from demand gen and growth perspective. And then sales, right? We get to grow that because it's no longer just me. We will have a leader on the team who's leading that team, so I can free myself up to make sure that the revenue efficiency happens in the other areas of our business, because the back half of our money, Trey, is only made when we perform. So, this is coming from a commission only guy. We only earn half of it. The other half, we have to go book meetings that show up, are qualified and held. And I said to the team today, wouldn't it be best if we could say to everybody, we have the best show rate in the world on our meetings? Meaning, why do you care if I get a meeting if they don't show and they aren't qualified? Like, don't even count it as anything. It's just a thing. It's a calendar placeholder. And so if we can do that well, we can start to prove these things out, and then we can go teach the rest of the world what we're doing. And then when I say scale it out, like give it away for free, because we have to get that community that says, hey, Cellex can teach me something. If they have 600 reps and they're getting all this data collectively every day, they probably know what's working and what isn't across every industry imaginable in every continent across the world. And then that's where it gets really fun, Trey, because then we go, okay, well, are we a data shop? No. But we can, and we've been asked, Trey, and I'll end with this because this is a big, like 7-minute commercial, but I'm just trying to explain.
No, you're good.
The guts of this is companies are like, hey, we want to use this for our team. Yeah, we've already thought of that. And wouldn't it be great, hint, hint, in July of 2023 is sort of what we have benchmarked with our CTO, Matthew Angelini, is could we sell this direct? Yes, the answer is yes. Do we want to make some changes before that and test things? Yes. Could we then have a dial-up team on demand? So you could have your team, Trey, using this. And then if you say, hey, it's Q2, I got to pump the pipeline up for Q4. You just hit that little slider. I love sound effects. Put it up and say, I need 5 reps with this background. I'm going to select 20 and hire 5, and boom, they're on your calendar for interviews within 2 to 3 days tops. You have a sales team spun up and running for you within 6 to 8 days. Like, that is the shape of people need to be nimble and flexible. No one wants to be in a 5-year plan anymore. The world is changing every freaking week, Trey. And so why wouldn't I want to be in a plan that gives me the same idea and concepts, but I don't have the overhead risk. I don't need to fire anybody. I can, get what I need, just like I outsource payroll and but now I have a platform so I can see everything integrated in my CRM and go, okay, I'm also completely aware of what they're doing, which my team never really told me because they never updated the CRM.
Right. Sales reps updating a CRM is almost non-existent. It's pretty challenging to get that done. But I love what you said about, goals. And I think about goals like this. I like to use some targets. I like the word target. That's a really good word. But I heard this recently and it made sense to me as well. The person who loves the journey is going to go further than the person who loves the destination. And if people, start to really love what they're doing and see the results and are getting, a lot out of what they're doing, that target that you set is probably, it might actually limit them more than help them out, because they're moving forward. It's the people who are focused on the target only that might be the only place that they get. And I'm all about helping people absolutely love the journey. And clearly you have a group of people that want to work with you. Your team wants to work with you. Talk a little bit about leadership and how you get people in the right position to where they start to love that journey and produce really well.
Well, I am for a sales guy, I don't really manage people tightly. Like when I was the CEO at Tidal, my leadership team could act autonomously. And I'd say for the most part, they could make their own decisions, right? If it was a big financial impact, or you call it a deal credit, I would want to certainly know that and approve it. I've learned that is both good and bad because every person is different, right? So some people operate in that very well. Others, I feel like I kind of I just gave them the short end of the stick, right? Because they wanted more, they needed more, they needed to understand the things oozing out of my brain that, of course, they can't get in one big like blah blah session. They have to sit down and peel it apart, and then operations has to go, Steve, I like your idea, but let's just slow down a little bit. Like, how would that conceptually work? And I learned Trey, I've also learned that 90% of my ideas suck, but 10% of them are pretty good. And I've learned to appreciate the fact that I think out loud, and some people take every word as gospel, right? And so I've learned to think out loud a little less because I can't really change who I am. Be more cognizant of the words I say. So if I said to you, Trey, hey, in 6 months, I have no doubt you'll be a VP. You're going to go home and you're going to be smiling to your partner and go, I'm going to be a VP in 6 months. Let's budget. I'm going to buy a new car. Let's get a second home. Oh my God, my life is changing. And then in 6 months, I go, what? No, I just said that. I didn't really mean it, Trey. I mean, things change, and you look at me and you go, I held on to that because to you that mattered. And so I've learned to say, like, there's potential for VP, Trey. Let's talk about the things that you needed to get there. And by the way, you're not the only one who wants that job. But I can talk to you specifically about your gaps that I would need you to solve before then. And we can re-emphasize your strengths because those are always good to end the conversation. But I really need you to be honest with yourself about the gaps. You can't be a leader until this. You can't be a this until this. And if you don't do that, you definitely won't get it. If you do it, it doesn't guarantee you're going to get the job. But I've learned to be careful about that because I know not everybody thinks like me, thank God. I have to learn how to talk to each person differently and respect how they interpret what I say.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so critical. And for two things there, you said you become really self-aware of who you are and being true to that person of who you are. Like you're not trying to change who you are, but just becoming aware of who you are and how people interact with that, how people respond to that. But then that flip side of the equation is also true. It's so important for leaders to know how their people respond to what's going to get the best out of them. And that's growth in leadership as you start to lead different people, or you start to realize what type of person is going to do better in this culture, in this environment, and try to find those people and put them in the right spot. Like it's so valuable as a leader to do those kind of things. I love that you're talking about that, which is awesome. Where are you guys going from here with Title and CellX? What's I mean, you got your goal out there. And by the way, let me ask you this before you have to answer that question. Was there any kind of fear in throwing a goal like that out there? Like saying, hey, we're going to hit 24 million at the end of the year. Like, was there any trepidation? We're like, oh man, we're putting this out there.
No, I was more afraid when I said I was going to lose 25 pounds, like publicly, because I know my limitations for like mindset with, call it, oh, I'm busy all day, so I don't remember to work out or eat. Like I know what to deal with. I just haven't made the pivot, right? So I know from a revenue perspective, our leadership, Dean, Matt, and Matt, like they've carved out a really nice, call it, piece of software and platform for us. And so I'm just looking at the TAM. I'm not approaching it blindly. Like we looked at the TAM, the ICP, the share of the market, and really looked at the vulnerability. And just for some background, I worked at T-Mobile in 2012 to 2017. Fantastic organization. Learned more than ever in my 5 years there. Had a very healthy paycheck. Really learned it. Was like, we challenge the entire industry to get better by doing things that maybe consumers think are kind of a given, but we got rid of the whole like, oh, you have 2,000 minutes a month, Trey, and then you're going to pay 30 seconds, unlimited everything, right? Unlimited data, go down that list. And I mean, we were even giving pizzas away on like Wednesday nights. I was like, what are we doing? But like everybody became raving fans, and they're all wearing magenta wigs and pom-poms. And we had the CEO, John Ledger, who would go around and he had long hair and he would just swear like he was F this and F that. And people loved it. He wore a leather jacket with a big magenta tee. Now, I'm not going to go do that. That's not my style. But I think by us trying to get good, we don't have to say, oh, we're killing everybody else. The competition sucks. What we do is hopefully give the industry sort of the transformation that they need so we don't have to be the same industry of, call it, lead gen that's been there for 20, 25 years where it either works or it doesn't, and you're out to 30K or whatever people pay no matter what. And then you go, that ROI sucked. I'm actually completely negative on it, like a negative 1,000%. So we want to challenge everybody. And quite frankly, ultimately, and we say this is bigger than the other goal, is we want to change the idea of what top of funnel looks like across the world forever.
Yeah.
And that's not something we take lightly. I don't think sales should be outsourced completely. I don't think AE should be. I don't think leaders should be. I don't think RevOps should be. I think those things can all be internalized, but content like Mackenzie, right? She is a hired gun. Why not hire us? Because Mackenzie drove $6.4 million of business to us in the last 12 months. And I guarantee you, we do not give her what she deserves out of that money. But what if Mackenzie was an SDR and she said, actually, I never booked an appointment, but we helped close $6.4 million of business. And so as we think about content and creation, that's what I mean when I say change the top of funnel, not so much outsource everything, but challenge that organization to kind of ease out of that predictable revenue model that I love and just realize that maybe that isn't working as well as it used to. And maybe we can modify it and put a content spin around it and then teach people how to do it versus just say, hey, Trey, start creating content. And you're like, cool, what's content?
Yeah, I mean that's so
Because
good. Yeah, I mean I love. We're at 30 minutes. Unfortunately, this goes so fast. There's so much more that we could talk about. But like Mackenzie, man, she's a hard gun for sure. And the fact that like she is driving business through that, we could talk about social selling. We can talk about the power of LinkedIn. There's so much more to discuss. But man, I really appreciate you being on the show today. If you're not following
yeah,
Steve on LinkedIn, by the way, make sure you follow him. His content's amazing. Julie was at T-Mobile as well for 7 years. So
Julie, what's up?
yeah. She
I'm
recognizes
gonna
the learning that
message her
happened there as
offline.
well. That's always great to hear. I
Yeah,
love when people talk about the former companies they were at and how much they learned at those companies. That tells me that company was intentional about growing leaders and growing people. So, man, there's so much more we can talk about, Steve. But thank you for being on the show. I hope you'll come back and see us soon. And I'm looking forward to following you on LinkedIn to see you reach that goal.
sounds good, man. Trey, thank you for having me. Everybody, make it a great day. Have a good holiday, 4th of July, whatever it is you're going to go
I know
do.
it's
Enjoy
coming up.
yourselves.
It's
It
crazy. And
is.
everybody come back tomorrow at 10:30 for our episode. We're going to have David Ville on the show. It's going to be an awesome show every day, weekday, 10:30 a.m. Central for Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership, powered by Beta Consulting Group. Everybody have a great week out there. We'll see you guys soon.
Peace.